Hello, welcome to the Viewpoint. I am Mamadou Mbouch. The UDP is the largest party in this country when we go by such objective indicators as the members they have in the National Assembly and in the councils as well. But is this white appeal, this dominance about to be shattered with the formation of the National People's Party, President Barrow's new party? We've recently seen defections and expulsions. So we've got today a legal practitioner, former High Court judge, former CEO of the Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, university lecturer. We can even call him a policy analyst. He is the current UDP spokesperson, Mr. Almami Funding-Tal. Welcome to the Viewpoint.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbouch. Happy Independence.
I was about to say the same thing. Happy Independence to you, which will actually be our first question. Your reflections on our 55th Independence anniversary.
It's a significant milestone. If you remember, under the first Republican Constitution, 55 was the statutory retirement age. So it seems as if it's a time that we should really spend reflecting as a nation. If we have reached almost the former retirement age of the country, where we are, what are the strategies, what are the plans we can come together with on the table and chart a path forward. I think it's a very wonderful thing, those who were here since independence, to live to this good age. Some of us were born post-independence, I'm sure, like you, Malik, like you, Mr. Mbouch. So really, I think it's a very important day. It's a significant milestone for our nation. And as Gambians, we should be very proud to celebrate and recognize national days like this, because they come very rarely in the life of a nation.
Absolutely. What did you make of the president's speech?
It was an official speech, and it was a speech in the public space. Generally, what we expect from our leaders is on days like that, because it's a national day, that they lift the nation with their speech and inspire not only reflection, but an effort to move the country in the right direction. Of course, a lot of the messages was about reconciliation and the need for people to see beyond one ethnic group or the other. So I really think that as a speech in the public space, it did some good work in speaking to the Gambian values, but as a function of inspiring the nation to rise against the current challenges of underdevelopment, of poverty, of destitution that is widespread. Climate change, everybody was complaining about how hot it is in February. These are all issues, the Sustainable Development Goals, the Africa Free Trade Continental Area, and the ECOWAS progression, because ECOWAS has turned 45 also in 2020. So I think the inspirational aspects of it, for me, I did not sense it, I did not feel it.
Yes. Now to UDP, the recent expulsions. Eight National Assembly members?
Yes,
What was that all about?
What happened is that in the UDP, we are very democratic in our internal processes. We have internal party democracy. People that were elected on the ticket of the UDP, people that nobody knew anything about, their antecedent or their contribution to the national development process, were groomed and prepared by the UDP to contest elections across different constituencies in the Gambia. But since their election in 2017, their constituents themselves have been raising complaints about their participation in the activities of UDP within their constituencies.
What exactly do you mean? Can you give us specific instances where their
for example,
participation was questionable?
For example, when UDP is organizing events in a constituency, it's having programs and activities in the constituency. These members of the National Assembly who were elected on the ticket of the UDP will not participate. The regional unit, whether it's the constituency or the ward level or the regional level, organs of the party will inform them, will notify them that on so and so date, UDP is having this activity here, whether it's a rally, whether it's a political discussion, whatever it is, they will not show up to these meetings. The UDP National Executive had called them severally, had called them individually to tete-a-tete meetings and say, look, we are hearing these complaints from your constituents that you are not participating in UDP activities. At the constituency level, they are normally in the constituency committee of the UDP. They don't go to meetings. They don't go to the bureaus of the UDP that are established in their constituencies. So for all practical purposes, they were not working for the political party according to the terms and conditions that are contained in our constitution. So this has been going on for a whole year. The back and forth, we've been asking them, what is responsible for this? And they would never give satisfactory answer except that they are still members of the UDP. So it was under these circumstances that we decided that, look, the long and short of this is that these people have lost the confidence of their constituents. Their constituents have complained to the party, and in a democratic party, we were hoping that if they were dissatisfied with the way the UDP is going, they would resign. But they did not have the courage of their conviction for whatever reason, because if they had resigned, there would be by-elections. So this is what they were not willing to subject themselves to. And in the end, we felt that, look, there is no need to keep people in your party who are not actually doing anything for the party.
Well, how would you respond then to the criticism that these people were actually showing open support to the President Barrow?
I think everybody is supporting, is showing open support to President Barrow because everybody wants.
Political alliance as such. Given now that he's formed the NPP, then the possibility.
Well, Mr. Mboch, it's clear. Political parties are organized to win and contest elections, and when you win on the ticket of Party A, I hope that in the future, other parties will not also have to resort to the same drastic measure. For me, I really don't want to speak to what other reasons are there. For us as a party, we are organized based on a constitution, and we expect members to behave according to the terms and conditions of the constitutions of the United Democratic Party. Now, if you have consistently shown either willful defiance of those principles, I think it's important that we send you away from the UDP, because for us, we are very confident and we are happy that it is now recognized that we are the largest party by numbers, by positions in government.
No, but this is what do you make of Sekou? I'm sure you've seen Sekou Marong, one of the National Assembly members expelled, who said that the expulsion was all political and that the UDP was dying. It just only remains to be buried. What do you think he meant by that? The expulsion was political. This is what we were talking about, political alliances or allegiances.
Well, for me, what I want to be clear for all the viewers to understand is that the UDP has been here for now 24 years, coming to. And this year particularly, we have witnessed tremendous surge in terms of membership, but most importantly, the quality of the membership that is coming to the UDP since the beginning of 2020 at least. So, to respond to people like Honorable Marong is really a waste of time, because Who does Mr. Marong represent?
There's a constituency.
I mean, that constituency itself came to complain about Mr. Marong. So what I am trying to explain is for him to sit anywhere
but
to
can
say
they
that...
withdraw? Isn't there such a provision that if the constituents are not happy with the National Assembly member, there's a process in which he could be recalled? I think.
Well,
why hasn't that been done?
process, unfortunately, it was mentioned in the 1997 Constitution. However, the National Assembly has not got around to coming up with the modalities of such a process. But I think it is important for the protection of political parties, not only UDP, that if at all you are the one who sponsors a candidate, yes, it's fair if he decides to, what is it called? If the party decides to kick him out, for him to maintain whatever status he has. But it is also unfair to the party if at all we have sponsored and invested in you as a candidate. At some point you decide, well, I no longer want to support the UDP, I want to support somebody else. I mean, I think in the interest of fairness, such a law, such a provision should be there. But most importantly, the constituents must have a right to recall their candidates. I mean, but the modalities are not there. And this related to a lot of things within our legal architecture. We need comprehensive legal reform, not only politics, but economics, social, cultural. We need comprehensive law reforms to strengthen the democracy that we are talking about.
Absolutely. But with these expelled National Assembly members, were there any differences of opinion, perhaps on policy or on key decisions that, you know, key issues that facing the country now? Were there any differences in opinion, apart from what you've mentioned, their attendance in certain activities of the UDP? But in terms of
the occasion did not arise to exchange opinions on burning national issues. So really, I mean, as a political party, we have a very clear vision of what the Gambia ought to be. That is a social democracy, that is inclusive, that is modernized, that is relating to the world based on these sustainable development goals that the UN has put aside. This is our general party worldview and outlook. None of these expelled UDP members, I have never had them express a different view. I have never had them accuse UDP policy one way or the other of not up to their satisfaction.
yes, but this is it. We've already mentioned the expulsions. Don't you see the threat, even though you have said that there has been an upsurge in the membership and even high caliber members in your party? But again, you must concede that there's a huge threat, given that the NPP, Barrow here, he has the advantage of incumbency, and we all know how attractive that can be. And so there surely is a threat that this might pose a serious dent to your party.
I have to agree with you this way, that anybody who wants to be politically relevant in the Gambia going forward, your hunting ground will be the UDP, because we have the majority. Everybody who wants to lead this country will have to get the support of the majority, and currently UDP has it. This is the only point that I am agreeing with you. UDP was formed by people that were very, very, very serious about politics. And when they formed the party, it was because Yahya Jammeh proscribed their parties. That is the PPP, NCP, and GDP. So members of these political parties in 1996 came together to form a united front. And they wanted to restore democracy in the Gambia. all elections subsequent to the formation of the UDP, it is clear to a lot of Gambians that it continued to be the major and the most significant threat.
Yes, but it lost all the elections until it became part of coalition in 2016.
Yes.
Then that was really where it showed its weight by really providing the flag bearer, as it were, who became battle, and afterwards he resigned.
Yes. I was making a point.
Yes.
The point I'm making is that the strength of the UDP is both historical as well as present. In this sense, you talk about coalition 2016. Even before coalition 2016, we had the NAT, the National Alliance for Democracy.
Yes, but all of them failed until the successful one, 2016.
Well, yeah. I mean, we are all familiar with the history. My point, Mr. Mboj, is this, that a party that has been conceived by people that are determined to make this country as democratic as possible continue to inspire those of us who have recently comparatively joined the UDP to look at the history of politics in this country as well as in the sub-region. And we know that if you don't command the majority based on principle, based on values, you are never going to be successful. My point is that...
But again, we've seen lots of political parties. They'll come and promise all sorts of things. We all know sometimes the quality of the electorate. We shouldn't really deceive ourselves here. So we've seen all sorts.
No.
Promises,
no, I know,
that sort of thing.
But my point is slightly different. I'm saying that the new kind of politics that is going to make a difference in this country is this, that the majority of people must be accepted to lead. Whether it's a coalition, whether it's an alliance, we have to understand that in a democracy, the majority must be allowed to lead. If not, you will have these internecine movements going this way, going that way.
But nobody's denying the majority to lead. I mean, we find ourselves in peculiar, really very difficult circumstances. So we had to come up with a formula that would make us overcome those circumstances.
Even that formula.
So it just happened to be
that formula was also made, in my humble opinion, without taking into account the fact that the majority needs to lead. If you want stability in a democracy, it has to be the majority.
But everybody agreed that Barrow would resign from the UDP. You all agreed. And become independent.
And what else did we agree?
So by doing that, it wasn't necessarily the majority.
I want to be clear here. That is not something that came from the sky.
Somebody decided it.
Yes.
And then the rest agreed.
No. What could have happened is that this is a democracy. And we have political parties, and the majority party, if they are successful, this is just an alternative view.
Was this view made then? I mean, I'm just not sure where this is taking us.
I'm just trying to also have the conversation that we had alternatives. Why did we take the one alternative and not the other?
But the point is that was the one we took.
Yes.
So everything else becomes academic.
No, it doesn't become academic. It strengthens the argument that I just made, that in a democracy, if you want stability, it must be the majority who leads.
Then you should have refused Barrow resigning from UDP.
No. We should not have refused. We should not have done it.
But you went ahead with it.
No. What I'm trying to say is that those who were suggesting that the majority should not lead, those are the ones we should now question. Why did they have that motive?
But just as we said, apparently they were trying to come up with a formula that they felt that was the best, so that we could surmount the difficulty of
and it has worked. Now that we have moved to the next stage,
it has worked.
I'm saying that if we want a democratic, stable government in the Gambia, it must be led by the majority.
And one imagines that in the next elections that is what's going to happen.
Indeed.
One imagines that either through a system of coalitions or whatnot.
Absolutely.
And as one expects.
Absolutely.
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 So here it leads us really to the leadership, questions of leadership. Obviously, one of the main talking points for a long time has been your leader, Usainu Dabo, especially with the 3 years thing, the MOU agreement. He was the one who threatened to take people to court. And then afterwards, who was the one who gave the party line, one supporting one view, another supporting another view. Somebody even used the terms flip-flopper, depending on interest. Surely that's not good for the party. It can damage the party in some ways.
Well, I mean, I have tried to answer this question as well as I can. You know, for me, I think most of us talking about democracy and plurality, any political party you have, and it doesn't have differing views and differing positions within that political party, it is probably a communist party or is a party in South Korea or something, or North Korea. All we are saying is that Mr. Dabo did say, and everyone is aware of this, that he wants to stand by the Constitution. And who will blame Mr. Dabo? Mr. Dabo, everyone knows that is a stickler for rules. He is a constitutional lawyer. He has had many cases. If you go and read the law reports of the Gambia, almost all the constitutional cases in the last 25 years or so where he was involved as either a litigant or as an advocate for that
But really,
point.
was it fair? I mean, when the coalition agreed what they did, he wasn't there.
Yes.
Yes, everybody knew what the Constitution said.
Yeah.
So shouldn't he have respected the spirit of 2016, not to come and say, no, you know, I will take to court anybody who wants to enforce this 3-year. Why?
Mr.
Why not
Mbowe,
follow
are
the
you
spirit?
suggesting that if I have an opinion just because you are my brother and people have agreed on certain thing, I cannot express my opinion about it?
One can certainly express your opinion, but again, the effects of it, or people and other people will have their own opinions of your opinion, and you see, it never stops.
Yeah, that's the
it
thing.
goes on.
That's
so
the
this
beauty
is
of
that is why
democracy.
some people accuse Usainu Dabo of the person who destroyed the coalition in many ways.
Well, you know, I mean, this is what we are saying. I mean, in a democracy, this is what people do. They will come up with a position and they try to give it some sanctity, which is probably not there. I mean, if you say that Usainu Dabo is the one who destroyed the coalition, I think you are giving Mr. Usainu Dabo a lot of powers. Mr. Usainu Dabo has made it very clear that we are in the political...
He was in a very powerful position then, and he was
He
the leader of the largest party. So his views, they will carry weight, obviously, given the circumstances. So when he really undermined one of the conditions of the MOU, the fact that Barrow would just serve 3 years and there will be national elections, when he really undermined that, a lot of people thought that really...
He didn't undermine that. He expressed his opinion about it. But when the 3 years' time came...
Even when your party didn't have a view.
Yes. But, you know, that's what I'm saying. You live in a democracy, and if you are, you know, if you are Modu Mbowe, people listen to your questions, people watch your program, because they want to watch it. Now, if you express a view here, and some people believe that it's very influential or is even true, well, this is what democracy is about. All I'm saying is that Mr. Dabo has every right, like every Gambian, to hold positions that are not the same as the UDP, even though he is the leader of the UDP. But the UDP has a process.
Isn't that odd? I mean, even when we had him here, we had a conversation about this. We invited him on Viewpoint. So it's really very difficult trying to disentangle Usainu Dabo from the leader of the UDP, if you know what I mean.
No,
this is the difficulty. This is the difficulty.
I don't think this is Usainu Dabo's fault, Mr. Mbowe. This is the fault of the mindset of Gambians, because we try to personalize positions with institutions. The UDP is an institution that was not formed by Alhaji Usainu Dabo. it was formed and he was asked to lead it. And
Yes.
this is not the first time
But this was on a key political question of our time, key political issue, and then the individual really ignoring the party, if you like, just saying,
he did not
saying
ignore
what
the
is it.
party.
But here you need to have a party line. You are a political party.
We haven't taken a line, and before we took a line, we would have been constituted as a body that has been tasked by the party to consider the issue. Like many other issues, the party has considered. And I'm sure he has explained here and has explained elsewhere that when the UDP chose Mr. Barrow as the flag bearer, he had a candidate himself, but the party overruled him.
Yes.
I think this is the health and the beauty of democracy. I really just don't understand why the country is now fixated on this description that he is the one who had said this. Yes, he said it. A lot of people have said the same thing.
Why is it that when he said it, and it wasn't the party line, why didn't the party release a press statement saying that to that effect, this was Ousseynou Dabo's personal view, had nothing to do with the party?
It wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary.
Well, you know that in a democracy, people will automatically, what the leader says, I mean, it is so significant. That is why leaders must be very careful what they say. Whatever you say, people will associate it with the party.
Well,
it's just practical.
Again, Mr. Mboj, I agree entirely with you that people have a right to associate me with whatever I say here. People will say that it's UDP, but this is not necessarily the case.
Well, you are the spokesperson. Yes. When it comes to political issues, maybe I wouldn't go as far as when it comes to marriage or other social issues that really don't have much to do with politics.
Yes.
Maybe I can distinguish between Alma Mittal, the human being, the person, and Alma Mittal, the UDP spokesperson. But on a political issue, I would like to think that you reflect the party view.
Yes, I always try to reflect the party view in every scenario possible. But this is an important political issue. When the time came, the party came out with a position. And it was read by the party leader.
It was read by the same Ousseynou Dabo.
Yes.
So perceptually, when people are looking at this and from what they've heard, surely in PR terms, that was damaging to the UDP.
Well, that's an opinion. That's an opinion that could be held. But I'm just telling you that since then, the party has grown from strength to strength. It shows every Gambian that this party is not one man's party. This party belongs to processes that have been laid down for almost quarter of a century. And this is how decisions have been made. This is not the only time. There have been many times when the majority of the members of the National Executive hold one position and Mr. Dabo holds a different position.
Absolutely. You've just said it's not a party of one person, granted, but yet you've only had one leader so far in the, 24 years? Is it
indeed,
something like
indeed.
that? There's just been only one leader.
Indeed. That is also the democratic way.
Who's now in his 70s? Has he reached his 70s now?
Yes.
And should we get a younger... It seems as if this kind of age shift. I mean, Yahya, when he's left in his 50s, Barrow came in his 50s. Maybe UDP should be looking to somebody in his 50s.
Well,
possibly.
Well, there is no reason. We are going to have a Congress in December this year, 2020. Elections within the party happen, and it's up to the members of UDP to choose their leader. It's a very simple democratic right. You know, and the reason why we have regular elections is to choose our leaders.
Would you support, for instance, at the party level, we know that at the national level, we want to have term limits. But shouldn't we transfer the same logic to the parties themselves? Perhaps their leaders to have term limits. I think one of the new reformed political parties have mentioned that they will have term limits within.
Well, I think,
would the UDP have that? Would the UDP have such a thing?
Well, it's a matter for the membership of the UDP. Congress is coming. If members in the UDP feel that it's necessary to have term limits, if they want to elect women, younger people, this is for the party to decide in Congress.
True. Well, what does Almami Funding Tal think? Would you support such a view?
I believe that organizations, especially voluntary organizations, must be governed based on democratic principle. So if at all there is a member of the UDP or there are several members of the UDP who want to try out these ideas that you are suggesting, I mean, I believe they should be allowed to be discussed within the party, and I see no reason
why.
why.
Would you vote? I'm trying to get Mr. Al-Mahmital's view on this one. Would you support it or not? Just your view.
We are not
you have a vote, surely.
No, we are not in Congress, and I'm just saying you, in principle, I have a democratic temperament. I believe that if the majority of people who form an organization wanted to go one way or the other, there should be that opportunity for people to test it.
True, but you've just said that you also allowed your individual view. For instance, what Usainu Dabo did, that was his individual view.
Yeah.
And you don't see that being incompatible with whatever line the party might take later.
Yeah.
So here I'm also equally in that vein. I'm asking you, what is your individual view on whether the party to have term limits on the leader?
In principle, I think it's a very good idea to have term limits.
You would vote for it if you were voting. If it came to that, you would vote for it.
You will vote for it. No, I mean, it's a question of process, firstly, because you are part of a democratic movement. If at all it is that important to any segment of the party and it is put on the table, obviously one will consider discussing this and coming to an informed decision about it. But I think we must also accept that in a democracy, this is how things are done. You know, just because one has an enlightened vision or idea about how the organization should be managed does not preclude others having different views about it. And at the end of the day, when there is that process in play, you will get to know about the idea better. You will see the other side, and because that is the business of discussions. Once you have a good discussion, you see both sides or you see all the sides.
But you still have your views. Some might even say convictions. All allowed in politics. I wonder, when did you join the UDP?
Formally, I joined in 2017.
2017. Why?
Yes. Because I found it to be the home of professionals.
How did you find it? How did you find out before you joined?
As you did in the introduction, I am a lawyer and I became a judge all this time. Now I'm 20 years at the Gambia Bar. I was working with Mr. Dabo. I had been involved in cases with him. I have seen the law reports of the Gambia that most of the consequential cases of the last 20 years or so, he has been involved in it. I know Mr. Amadou Sane, I know Auntie Yam, I know Mr. Lamin Dambudiba. These were all professionals before they had a political life and career.
But
So
were you political as such? There's something we call the political animals.
No, I would.
Do you have an ideology? Are you left or right? We know that these ideologies don't quite apply.
I consider myself a progressive, meaning I believe that institutions of governance can go a long way in changing the trajectory of the nation. I am a big fan of someone like Lee Kuan Yew, Nehru of India, of course, the great Nelson Mandela. So I'm a progressive, and I think the UDP, their leaders, particularly because if you work for yourself as a professional, like Usainu Dabo has done for almost 40 years of his life, Amadou Sane, Lamin Dambudiba, these are all known Gambian professionals before they entered politics. So I saw UDP really as the home of professionals. The other party I was thinking about really was PDOIS because of Mr. Sidi Ajata and Honorable Halifa Sallah. But in the event, I realized that the values that I cherish politically and philosophically are more in tune with what the UDP was trying to accomplish for the Gambia.
And not PDOIS.
No,
No, PDOIS didn't have that. So but there's a new actor, if you like, in politics, social media. Because you read all sorts. I mean, then one wonders, what effect does it have on how you do politics, given this huge, amorphous, gigantic platform for all sorts of things? Proper information, of course, but misinformation, disinformation. How do you sell your message in this crowded field of talking heads?
Is quite challenging, I have to say. But the UDP is blessed with a student wing. We have a youth wing within which we have a student wing. Generally, people in tertiary education who choose the party as their home, political home, they have been very active in modernizing the messaging of the party. And we are in the process of revamping the website of the party. And the party leader and the executive, most of the, not most of them, some of them were born, of course, before computers. So they are welcoming the possibilities that social media present in terms of messaging. Frequently, Mr. Dabo will be tweeting. He will be having Facebook live sessions. And we try as much as possible to come on board prestigious and important programs like the Viewpoint to try and spread as much of our message as possible. So really, we know that there is a lot of disinformation. There is an overload of information. And, there is a lot of citizen journalism. And sometimes opinion are presented as if they are actual facts. So these are all challenges that we are grappling with, but our student wing helps a lot in trying to get us to respond to relevant questions and queries.
So I was just about to ask, how do you deal with adverse mentions, if one can put it that way? Do you counter them? Because you want good argument to crowd out bad. So one wonders
no question. For us, we try to clarify, and whenever it is necessary, we would bring a counterpoint. But we believe that if your programs are sufficiently thought through, and you put them out regularly at your own choosing, at your own time, I think it will be a very good way of countering some of these adverse or negative mentions. But in a political process of a democracy, a little bit of mess is inevitable, and one just has to take it, with a straight chin. So I really think sometimes you get a hit below the belt. Sometimes you get insult. But, people who have no ideas, will resort to all kinds of tactics to get attention firstly, or to try and annoy you, which is something that we as a party want to dissociate ourselves completely from.
That's it. So when you look at our country today, we've just celebrated our 55th anniversary. When you look at Barra's administration, what are the three key things that you think he's getting wrong that we need to get right? We are in difficulties in all sorts of areas. There's no need to list them. So, for instance, a UDP government, what three things, for instance, would you prioritize, and how would you deal with it, given what is?
Okay. For us, the most important thing is to have a democracy that empowers Gambians. The second important thing is to have the rule of law unquestionable. Third important thing is to have a systematic response to climate change and globalization. I'll start with the democracy that empowers Gambian citizens. Firstly, we need a space where you don't need to seek Murumbo's permission to hold a view or to express a view. You want a society.
Is such a thing existing now?
No, it's not.
People needing a permission to. So already, that's what we do. This is democracy. I would like to think that we are living now in a democracy. And the conditions there, aren't we in a democratic state already?
Yes, we are.
Aren't we applying rule of law already?
Yes, we are.
And for climate change, that's something else. So this doesn't really distinguish you, your party, from any other, because all that you're saying is already existing.
Yeah, no, but I'm explaining.
So what are the deficiencies? What would you add? Are there any?
No, that's what I've just said. I said I want a democracy that empowers Gambians.
So this one, isn't it empowering one?
No, it is not.
In what ways isn't it?
You just highlighted it. If you want to hold a view or if you want to express a view, you need a permit.
Oh, you mean you need to change our laws about assembly to get the notification?
Of course.
All right. Some would say that they're perhaps working on it, the new constitution and the like that would change it.
It doesn't have to wait for the new constitution.
Have to wait. So you would bring it forward immediately.
Yes. And if you want to have an effective rule of law, you must have good laws. If you go to our detention facilities or prisons, you will find a lot of people that have committed very, very insignificant infractions or misdemeanors. They are staying there for 3 years and they are given, terrible food. They are costing the taxpayer a lot of money. So you want to rationalize all of these things. I mean, if you go to a place like the UK, in the 1990s, they tried to reform and rationalize their criminal justice system, the administration of justice generally. I mean, these reforms, if you do them, then the rule of law means something, because now if you go to court, they will tell you, oh, you are charged under the Public Order Act. But that Public Order Act is not helping Gambians.
But in the House, correct me if I'm wrong here, can you have a private member's bill?
Of course you can.
So one wonders why you haven't put in a private member's bill to change some of these things you want to change. In terms of legislation,
you know the
is it
process
possible? How does it work? That is it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly what we're talking about.
It's because the way the National Assembly works under the 1997 Constitution, effectively it is only the executive that makes law. So even this private member's bill, you will need a full-time legal desk to help you with the drafting. Otherwise, the Parliamentary Council is staying in the office of the Attorney General. So these are the kind of mismatch that we have in the lawmaking architecture of the country. That is why the Parliament is sessional. It does not sit continuously throughout the year. So in the final analysis, you don't have qualitative laws that are going to empower Gambians. All of this, why we need good laws to empower Gambians is because the economy of the Gambia is completely out of the discussion in this democracy that we have. Because if you walk on Kairaba Avenue, 99% of the businesses are owned by non-Gambians. This is not a statement of alarm or anything. It's just to say that we do not have in the ecosystem of especially business laws that are helping Gambians to own better businesses, to own their own homes, to be engaged in better training, employment situation, all kinds of things. If you want
a process of indigenization of some sort, is that what you're talking about here?
That is just a small part of it, but I'm just saying that all of this hinge on the nature of the laws that we have. So you want to make sure that you don't spend all your time talking merely about civil liberties, because we all know that all over the world, the only people that threaten the human rights of their citizens are governments. Anywhere you go in the world, when you take a case against, it is against the government against the people. So we should be, as a political party, we should be in a position to form a government that does not only give you democracy in name. You must have a foundation of the rule of law, which is empowering the citizens. And there are so many things that are within that mix. So I really think that the most urgent thing now for any government, whether it's a future UDP government or not, is to focus on a transformational law reform agenda.
Yes, and of course the economy, which is a huge chunk of it. How would one deal with it? Huge youth unemployment. It's a formidable challenge.
It is a serious problem. We believe that public-private partnerships, for example, have a very big opportunity to help make the Gambian economy more Gambianized or more indigenized. Because if you have Gambian private sector operators that can partner with the public sector, like we have seen in KMC, where the UDP is operating, we see there are trucks that collect garbage, just one aspect of civil life in an urban area. Now the garbage collection problem has almost been solved because KMC has deployed through a partnership.
Yes, when you're seeing, they're trying, one sees the trucks all over the place, but yet to say that the garbage problem has been solved, I'm not sure what you mean by that, because so many places, you see dirt,
yes.
Dirt all over the place. And the habits, the other part that should complement what these institutions are doing, one is not quite sure whether we're working on that. You see people throwing things on the floor all the time. So
yes.
without the two, we're never going to have a clean environment. How would you get people galvanized?
No, but that's what I just try to explain, Mr. Moch, that if we have a proper framework for public-private partnerships, you will have many examples like what you have in KMC. But changing attitudes towards some of these things, quite frankly, I think requires a lot of focus on also the quality of laws. Because if somebody does something wrong and he is not punished for it, he will continue doing it. Why is it that you think that everybody, everywhere you go in the Gambia now, you have hawkers on the street? People selling banana, people selling mandarin, people selling cashew nuts, groundnuts. Everything is done on the street. I mean, it seems as if the whole country is just out on the street.
Yes, sir.
So these are all things that I believe if you have good regulations, if you have good rules, it will make sure that there would be districting properly, so that if you want to buy cashew nuts, you go to a certain kiosk or a certain area and buy these things.
But this is exactly the problem, isn't it? We do have all sorts of laws in our books, but implementation. We have forever been blamed for not being the sort of people who will never implement. All sorts of laws are there, but we rarely implement. This has been, it's always complained about. So what strategy, what mechanism to make sure that we implement? There must be some kind of statecraft where we should be able to implement policies. But we always come short when it comes to implementation.
No, I agree. I mean, there may be laws, but the quality of the laws themselves is for me the main challenge here, Mr. Mboj. If you have the law and it is not applied, it's not implemented, who is supposed to implement it? If at all it is the central government, if at all it's the police, if at all it is the municipal government, we should be very clear about that. So, I mean, I don't want to be speculating here, but I want to assure you that if you have the right legal architecture and you have the regulations in place, I think it becomes relatively easy to modernize and organize your society for progress and for prosperity.
So you think the laws, essentially having what you call it, the architecture. What about the people? Everybody's been complaining about the attitudes, certain attitudes that would not make us implement policies, or being corrupt here. You do have all these negative epithets applied to how people work. So perhaps this has been a major hindrance.
But there really is a failure of leadership across the board, if you ask me. Because if you are employed here at QTV and your job is to make sure that your interview guests answer your question, you do your research, you do your preparation, you end up coming up with a product that is of the right quality. There is somebody who is watching over you and making sure that if you don't do the right thing, there would be consequences. So I'm just saying that in a democratic society, you have to create a regime of incentives, but also you must have control. And the best way to control these things is to base it on the rule of law, so that everybody knows that this is the law. And if I am going to be engaged in a public-private partnership, for example, to collect garbage or to sweep the streets, these are the terms and conditions. If you fail to do it, then the law will apply on you.
Recently, this sort of dovetails into what we are about to say. Recently, there's been some kind of border problems with the transport between Gambia and Senegal. The protocols, even though there's an ECOWAS free movement protocol. And we've also got a special agreement with Senegal, but still, this is an issue. If we do not carry the people with you, it's not going to work.
Oh, absolutely.
They're negotiating now, but for when? Until when then we'll have the same problems again? If we do not carry the people with us, then these transnational...
Who is supposed to carry the people with us? It's the leaders.
The leaders, absolutely.
I mean, and we know for a fact that there is a very good relationship between our two leaders. We have the Senegalo-Gambian Secretariat, we have the OMVG Secretariat in Dakar. These are supposed to make the relationship more effective, more useful. Very recently, last year, we have this Trans-Gambia Bridge or the Senegambia Bridge. So the only people who are involved in trying to sabotage the relationship are the private sector operators in Senegal, and I think we should be principled enough as a nation to call these things out, because everybody is saying that some unions in Senegal are the ones who are stopping our vehicles, and there is a border closure. These things are not new in our experience. How we manage it is a function of leadership. We need a leadership that is very much in tune with the laws that are here, the laws that are from ECOWAS, and that way they can carry everybody along with their vision. So
now we're coming towards the end of the Viewpoint. Now that you've expelled 8, your majority has, to what now? What's your majority now in the National Assembly?
2023, I believe.
Even with the expulsions?
Yes.
What was your majority before?
It was 31.
Well, you had 31.
Yes.
But when you add minus everybody else, I think you had a majority of what, 14, wasn't it?
Oh, well,
something like that.
I can't recall. I can't recall.
So minus 8 now, down to 6.
Yeah.
So how does that look? I mean, that in itself is a subtraction, isn't it, from when it comes to the ledger, the cost and benefit ledger? It's a subtraction. It's a negative.
I agree. I think, but
yeah.
I think the most fundamental issue is for us as a nation to decide our lawmaking process. It's not only for the UDP, but every Gambian must be invested in this general idea. How do you make law in the 21st century so that it reflects the aspiration of the people who have elected you into a lawmaking office? So the nature of the National Assembly under the 1997 Constitution is not meant to really make laws as independently and as effectively as other legislatures do. So it is time that the new Constitution, I see there are some advances there, but even before the coming of the new Constitution, there can be laws that are made to change the way the National Assembly operates. The standing orders themselves, all of them are getting some support in terms of reforms. But I really think it is time that this country look at the separation of powers. And if we do that, we will have a better legislature, and they will be making better laws and in good time.
Because I think the draft constitution sort of did quite a pretty good
job.
But I would rather, just one final question. I would rather, would you have the referendum before 2021 elections?
Well, that is up to the what is it called? Up to the executive arm of the government.
What do you prefer? What do you prefer?
I will prefer that we have a new constitution before elections. I mean, the idea that UDP is going to struggle in any electoral formula that we have, is fantasy, and a lot of people living in that sandcastle. But we are ready anytime for elections. We know where we are with the Gambian people. We are trying every day as a party to modernize, to renew our processes, and to aim for the top job in government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Almami Funding-Tal, for joining us in the Viewpoint today. It was a fantastic conversation today. And thank you very much, viewers, for joining us. Until the next time, I'm Mohammed Mbouch. Goodbye.